Michelle Obama's podcast is boring. I said it. It's boring. I just tried to watch the latest episode with Keke Palmer, and I could not get through the first 5 minutes. And I am a fan of Michelle Obama, but it is boring, and I want to talk about why I think it's boring, and also why I don't think Michelle Obama cares that it's boring. And that's okay, because she's Michelle Obama. So this is the third episode of the Curated Legacy Podcast. You guys are going to have to bear with me if I sip some water, whatever it is I do here, because I am trying my best not to edit this. I did not edit my last one. And so we'll see how long I can keep this going without editing these, because as you know, my regular videos are highly edited to an extent. But I want to talk about, and this is unscripted, by the way, so I might be all over the place. I'm just getting used to this whole podcasting thing and just kind of speaking my mind and not editing myself as much. But when people say something is good, like that was a good book, that was a good or a great movie, wow, that video was so good. Sometimes I'll see people in the comments tell me my videos are good. And I love that. But let's unpack what makes something good versus what makes it boring. And I'm going to do this through the lens of Michelle Obama's new podcast with her brother that just dropped a couple weeks ago. There's been a lot of pushback or a lot of feedback about this being a flop, this being a failure. And a lot of that has to do with numbers, because, you know, numbers wise, she's not getting the same kind of numbers that she got on her national tour some years ago. And I'm going to be talking about that. But really quick, this is my second time filming this video. I filmed this video in my car, was it earlier this week maybe? And I watched that back with the intention of posting it. And I did not post it because it was boring. I honestly, and I'm dead serious. And so I was like, how are you going to make a video about someone else's podcast being boring and your video was boring? So I'm like, okay, let me try this again. So I don't even know where to start with this because I have a lot of thoughts, but just, you know, real quick, I kind of geek out over media and all things media. So this is the Curated Legacy Media Podcast. So I am going to be speaking through the perspective of like a media perspective, if you want to get started and grow on YouTube as I coach about that subject. Michelle Obama's podcast. So she had Keke Palmer. That was her last guest, is Keke Palmer. And even in the title, I knew immediately, I'm like, this is not really what I want to hear about. So she's talking with Keke Palmer about Keke Palmer's, career. That was that was what they were talking about, that episode. And immediately I'm like, I don't care about Keke Palmer's career, because we all know that Keke Palmer is a success in her career. I want to hear about Keke Palmer's relationship, about her being a single mom, about the challenges of being a single mom, the challenges that she has with dating, right? That's what I want to hear. And I want to highlight a very human thing that we all share when it comes to the kind of media that we consume, or the kind of media that we prefer to consume, is that there is like the formalities, you know, the PCs, politically correct things that we talk about when we see each other and say, hi, how are you? I'm fine. Talk about the weather, talk about sports, and, you know, just all the topics. And that's why a lot of people don't like small talk, because small talk is very much, people feel like it's surface level, but there is an underbelly, there is like an underground of topics, of conversations, of discussions that a lot of people are dying to either talk about or to hear someone talk about. And if you are wanting to start as a content creator, specifically a YouTuber, your best bet is to figure out what are the things that people are not saying. What is everybody thinking, but too afraid to say? And you can figure out, how you want to do that. Of course, there's a fine line of kind of going too far. So, figuring out what your personal line is and not crossing that. But Michelle Obama is basically staying right above level. I mean, again, I actually looked through her entire, podcast. So she doesn't have that many videos yet, but the videos that she does have, I looked at the different topics. The only one that really intrigued me was the one with Keke Palmer. So that's why I clicked on that one. And even that one wasn't that interesting to me. I also looked at some of her YouTube shorts. She had Issa Rae on her show, which I love Issa Rae. But again, Issa Rae was talking about like technology and using her phone. And it was, like I said, the topics to me were just very much surface level. And what people are wanting in most cases is to go deeper. They want to, and again, of course, everyone's not going to be forthcoming about their whole personal life. Even me here, I don't talk a lot about my personal life. But here's the funny thing. You guys actually do know a bit about how I think and what I care about, what I'm passionate about, because that is what's in my videos. What you have to realize is that if somebody is making a video about something, especially if it's a curated video that's edited, there's music, there's clips, that takes time. And so I don't know anybody who's going to put that level of work in with something that they don't care about. So I suspect that even though a lot of us don't care about Michelle Obama's topics, something tells me that maybe she does care about those topics. And that's okay. That's her thing, because she has already accomplished, something that, no one could ever even imagine. She's been at the highest, almost the highest level especially for a woman. So at that level, for her, she's not necessarily trying to entertain us or, give us the tea or anything like that. She probably just wants an outlet to talk about things that matter to her. And I want to also highlight the difference between there's this word projection that people use a lot, especially when you make content like I make. The common assumption when you see someone making a certain type of video is that they are projecting, meaning whatever their insecurities are, the content creator, whatever this content creator's insecurities might be, their fears or concerns, they are casting that on someone else. They are assuming that other people have that same or should have that same concern. And one of the things I was thinking about, I was like, it's for me, creating content is not about projecting, although as humans, we all can and have the capacity to do that. But it's about connecting. Every video that I make, it is because I'm connected in some way to the topic. I care in some way about the topic and or the person that I'm talking about. That includes this video right here. And that is where you start hearing and feeling the passion of the creator. You can tell when someone does not care about what they're talking about. It shows, which is why, like I said, I watched the video that I already filmed about Michelle Obama and her podcast. And I was just like, this is not it. So I was like, let me do this over and tell you what I really think. So remember that people might think that you are projecting, but it could just be that you are connecting with the topic, with the niche, with the person. And an example of this is like, there's a reason why people who, like I follow a couple creators who have lost weight, and a lot of their content is about weight loss or body positivity or, something to do with that. I follow a creator who has 4C hair, 4C natural hair, and most of her videos are about texturism and and colors. She's also dark skinned. Colorism. I'm a plus size woman. So it's no coincidence that many of my videos feature women who perhaps I identify with in some way. Women who are, whatever you want to call it, curvy, plus size, overweight. Some of them, have, there's a whole series of BBL videos, but that all kind of to some extent being in the same vein. I don't necessarily center super skinny women on my channel. Why? Because I can't identify. I have never in my life been able to say that I'm skinny, but I would imagine there's some, this is just an example, a supermodel out there who's been thin her whole life who might profile a certain type of woman or an example of a certain type of woman on her channel. We all do this. And again, it's not necessarily projection, but it's connection. It's who we feel connected to, is what we feel connected to. And often it's based on our experiences in life and based on our knowledge. And it's based on what we care about and our passion. So going back to, Michelle Obama and her podcast, another, I guess, semi-story I wanted to share was I attended this coaching conference some years ago, and I was kind of complaining, ranting, I guess, with one of the coaches about something personal. And her response to me was, people don't know how much things mean to you. So I was essentially complaining about someone who I felt like didn't get me, or perhaps would kind of tease or make fun of me about something. And the thing that they were teasing and making fun of me about, it was something that actually hurt me. And I was sharing this with this coach, and her response again was, people do not know how much things mean to you. So this person who was doing that, perhaps, because some people do know what they're doing to you and they don't care, but some people don't really know what something means to you. And so if somebody is commenting on your weight or your hair or your features or whatever it is, your art in this case, they're commenting on your art, your creativity, your videos, they may not know how much that thing means to you because they're not you. They don't know, they're not in your head. And so I apply that to even Michelle Obama's podcast. Like, although we can look at her topics, what she's sitting there talking about with her brother, which is like, oh, when you were in first grade, this thing happened, and something about some bed sheets and I don't even know, bunk beds. And, again, some of it is like reflecting on her childhood with her brother. Things that honestly, I don't want to sit through. Like, I'm just not interested in that, but it might mean something to her. And there, I'm assuming, is a subset of people out there who care about that. Now, granted, maybe not as many people as, not as many people as one would expect, which is why people are saying that her podcast is a flop, because the numbers are lower than what was expected of her. And this was maybe, I want to say, I don't know, probably before the pandemic. You guys may remember she went on tour. And I remember, I didn't see her when she was on tour, but I know people who attended her tour, or her, I guess it would be like a live talk that she did. And the tickets were very expensive, like over $500. And I just remember people speaking so highly of her impact and just being so motivated by whatever she shared. And perhaps she thought that, that would translate over into the podcast space. And it didn't. It doesn't. Whatever she was delivering on stage, people loved it. A lot of Black women attended that. They loved it. But it's not translating over in the podcast form. And also she's sharing different information in the podcast. The podcast is with her brother as well, so it's different. Let's go back to what I said. What makes a good podcast? What makes a good video, a good book? Most of the time, we want to hear, like I said, we want you to don't stay surface. I want you to go, you don't have to go way deep down and pull up all types of traumas and stuff like that. But yeah, let me hear a little bit about the things that you don't typically share. We want to know, Michelle, why haven't you been seen with your husband at the last couple major political events? What was the last argument you guys had? Now, again, this is getting personal, but I'm sharing with you the things that people really want to know. And because, she gives a little teasers here and there, but she's not really giving us the tea, giving us the drama or the gossip. She's staying surface level, talking about how things were for her in high school, et cetera, et cetera. She had, with Issa Rae, they talked a lot about like phones and, the whole topic had something to do with how people are on their phones a lot, So it was this whole thing about people just being on their phones. And again, and it wasn't anything, nothing was shared that I don't already know. Like, you're telling me that, people are always on their phones and the whole loneliness epidemic. And it's like, okay, fine, that is true. You're giving true information, but it's information that's kind of obvious, and I don't feel validated or seen, or because a lot of times when we listen to podcasters and YouTubers, there are things that we're dying to hear them say, maybe things that we wish we could say, or things that are like stuck in the back of our minds, and then they say it and you're like, oh, that's it. That's, sometimes people can share a sentiment that maybe you feel, but for whatever reason, you haven't been able to put it in the words. And so if you're talking about, so many people are on their cell phones nowadays, yeah, that doesn't cut it. And so again, I'm not trying to be mean, a mean girl to Michelle Obama. Like I said, I really like her. I know that people tend to drag people who drag. If you say anything bad about Michelle Obama, usually you get dragged. This has happened to me before on video I did some years ago. But so this is not about tearing Michelle Obama down. This is about it explaining from a media perspective why Michelle Obama's podcast will probably not, I don't suspect it's going to continue very long. And I also want to say that this is her third podcast. So this is the third time that she is trying to do this. And I guess the question that I have is, not even really a question, but it kind of goes to show that this is something that means something to her. Like, she wants to do this podcast thing. So kudos to her for that. And, I think the thing for you is, if you are an aspiring content creator, especially an aspiring YouTuber, is you can't do what she's doing if you want to be successful on YouTube. So let her do that as the former first lady, someone who has all the notoriety. But you, as a person who nobody knows, you are going to have to dig deeper. Again, the underworld, the underbelly of topics, of concerns, of tapping into the psychology of everyone as humans. What are the things that everyone is too afraid to say, and how can you say it in a way that feels authentic to you, right? Because that's what this is about. It's not about, I'm not like a gossipy type of person, so I don't really like gossip, but I do like hearing things that I don't typically hear. So hopefully you can distinguish the difference there, because there is a difference. What time am I at? Okay, so it's funny how when you do the podcast thing, that time does go very quickly. I am checking my phone really quick here, and also I have a candle, and I have a succulent plant here, another one that is struggling. So I didn't want to show the whole thing because I'm like, I need to kind of polish it up a little bit and center it and water it and do some things. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to share. I think that's it. This is one of the problems with me being unscripted is like, and I shared a lot. The video that I recorded before this one, I shared a lot more about media in general. I know I'm forgetting some things, but I'll be honest. I told myself, for me to do this podcast, I'm going to have to make it as simple and plain. And that's why you'll likely see me a lot show up with no makeup. Because if I got to do all of that, and then keep in mind, it's not like I'll wear a ton of makeup and it takes a long time, but it's just another step. And then I have to take it off because my intention is to work out today. So I don't want to work out with makeup on. So it's just all these steps. So my whole thing is eliminating some of those steps. And so I do appreciate you all for being open to this type of content, and feel free to give me whatever feedback you have about this. And there are some improvements that I will be making to the podcast. But feel free, if you have any feedback for me, to leave it in the comment section. So I think that's it. If I forgot anything, I will say it in the next episode, which will be episode 4. And like, share, subscribe. Go to my website if you're interested in working with me as your YouTube coach, because I help people get unstuck, get started, and grow their YouTube channels, grow as a person. And so again, go into the description box, click the link to my website. If you can scroll down to the bottom of the page for my website, you can put your email in there and you will be able to get my newsletter that I only send out once a year because right now I am a one-woman show, one-woman company. But Curated Legacy is a media company. And so if you see on the thumbnail the Curated Legacy logo, you know that I'm going to be talking about something media related and relating that back to perhaps your experience of wanting to be a content creator on YouTube. Now is really the best time because we know that legacy media is starting to die out. And this is the era of the rise of the podcaster, the rise of the YouTuber. And it's such a great time. Even the White House, not that I'm involved in anything with the White House, but I'm just naming the fact that even they are saying that they're open to regular YouTubers covering, different stories and things like that with the White House. So, yeah, this is the time. This is a really good time to start if you want to get started on YouTube. And so another thing I wanted to say, and this is random, I meant to say this earlier, Melissa Ford is another podcaster who just got started. Excuse me. And you guys know I actually made probably a couple videos about her. And I looked at her podcast on YouTube not long ago and saw that she's not even posting anymore. So it just goes to show that, although a lot of people want to be a YouTuber and or a podcaster, everybody will not have the resilience, because Melissa Ford and this, I'm probably going to just make a separate video about this, but yeah, I think that, again, similar to Michelle Obama, maybe thinking that somehow because she was, made it in the video vixen world, that people would be interested in her as a podcaster. Obviously she was also on the Joe Budden podcast as well, but it doesn't always translate over that way. You really have to figure out how to connect with people, and and some people are better doing that in person. Some people are better doing that in other ways. And so let me know if you're interested in me doing a future video about Melissa Ford as a podcaster and relating that back to content creation. So this is Naka, and this was episode 3 of the Curated Legacy Podcast. You can actually listen to this in audio form or video form on the YouTube Music app and or the YouTube Music website. I have a book on Amazon. I have a Black-owned store. I have a channel membership. If you want to become a channel member, you can follow me on Instagram. All those links are in the description box. And stay tuned for another episode of the Curated Legacy Podcast. Bye.